We're good.
All right, thank you. So good afternoon. Welcome to all of you. Today we're here um, presenting the NJ Build New Jersey Builders Utilization Initiative for Labor Diversity. It rolls right off the tongue. The NJ Build Women and Minorities in Construction Trades program. This program right now currently resides under the New Jersey Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. And we are excited to present to you the second round of this Women and Minorities in Construction grant. We did a first round, which ultimately ended up with 4 awarded grants uh, that started on January 1st of this year. The expectation for this round is, hopefully we'll be able to award more than the 4 that we were able to award in the first round, and ultimately get started here somewhere later in the fiscal year, maybe towards like May 1st or June 1st as a start date for the program for the second round. But ultimately, this Women and Minorities in Construction grant is available to um, organizations, whether they're nonprofit employers or for-profit based or schools. We have a slide that gets into the eligible entities. It's also listed within the notice of grant opportunity. Um, it is a program that is available the to the public, but it is not available to individuals. So just so that to be clear, the funding is available for the service provision and the placement of individuals into um, jobs. So it's for women and minorities to receive training within the construction trade specifically. And so the individuals would be able to apply to the awardees of this grant in order to receive training, but they wouldn't be able to apply specifically for the funding if you're an individual. So hopefully that adds some clarity, because we do have a lot of people who reach out with questions and get confused on that. So we'll get started here. So the mission of the Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning is, we work closely with the United States Department of Labor and serve as the one-stop shop for employers, nonprofits, secondary and post-secondary institutions that are interested in developing apprenticeship opportunities. We support new and expand on existing pre-apprenticeship and USDO registered apprenticeship programs. We establish pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs in non-traditional high-growth occupations or sectors. We expand the New Jersey Apprenticeship Network to facilitate interactions between industry, educational institutions, training providers, and job seekers. We better align secondary, post-secondary, adult education, and occupational training to meet labor demands unique to New Jersey and develop career pathways that lead to economically sustainable wages. We help apprentices earn college credits, access robust career counseling, and increase diversity and inclusion in apprenticeship programs. And we do all that while trying to work to remove economic barriers to training and upskilling through targeted investments like this program. Um, this is some basic information on the mission of our Office of Apprenticeship. The NJ Build program does not mandate that all of your participants go into a registered apprenticeship. It is definitely something that we are working towards, trying to ensure that our programs have some connection to registered apprenticeship, but it isn't mandatory. It's not within the notice of grant opportunity that it's mandatory. There are multiple options that you have for this grant in order to be able to receive funding and provide placement for your participants. So the vision of the New Jersey Apprenticeship Network is to develop sustainable talent pipelines by aligning pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs with the needs of employers, training providers, and job seekers. We focus on the driving economic development through skills and educational attainment, concentrate our efforts on sector-focused, demand-driven training and education programs that lead to better paying careers, advanced credentials, and skills attainment. And we develop an ecosystem that provides multiple years of economic support to businesses and individuals for occupational skills training, leading to sustainable wages, upward mobility for employers, and increasing talent pipelines for employers. We feel here in the Office of Apprenticeship that apprenticeship models benefit both residents of the state of New Jersey as well as employers of the state of New Jersey in ways that enhance their ability to obtain career pathways and to enhance their ability to make sustainable wages, and ultimately the models that we concentrate the majority of our programs on are pre-apprenticeship related or apprenticeship related programs. As I said earlier, it's not mandatory that this NJ Build grant is done that way in that fashion, but it is definitely something that would make your application stand out and be something that might make your application more um, favorably looked at by the panel members. Uh, Ultimately, NJ Build is not specifically a registered apprenticeship program or a pre-apprenticeship program. It is a program that is built to enhance the skills of women and minorities so that they are um, more qualified to meet the needs of the trades that exist and have existed for many, many years, so that we can try and increase the diversity that exists within those trades and increase the number of women and minorities that are obtaining those types of jobs, so that we can um, for the future, see a time where programs like NJ Build maybe aren't necessary anymore. So that's the goal here of NJ Build, is to really increase that number of women and minorities that are getting skilled and then receiving employment in the trades, in the construction trades or ancillary programs. So what is a registered apprenticeship? A lot of times when we get people who are interested in our programs, they don't really understand what a registered apprenticeship is. And I wouldn't want you to just make your application or create an application specifically geared towards registered apprenticeship because you just heard me say that it's looked upon favorably within your application. That isn't the reason why. The real reason would be that you feel that registered apprenticeship is a good model that'll fit for the population of individuals that you're looking to serve and for the trainings that you're looking to provide placement in. And it also works for your partners, the employers that you're working with, in order to place these individuals after the trainings are complete. Part of this process is receiving the training and getting skilled up. The other part is getting a getting a job or entering into a registered apprenticeship program, and those two parts are just as important as each other. You need the skill in order to be able to receive the employment, and without the employment, the skill is, mm, I don't want to say meaningless, but ultimately it doesn't show that we've attained the ultimate goal of increasing the number of women and minorities receiving employment in the construction trades. So um, if registered apprenticeship was something of interest to you, this will hopefully be a helpful slide to explain to you a little bit about what a registered apprenticeship program is. So first things first, a registered apprenticeship program is approved by the United States Department of Labor. It's based on industry standards, and it takes into account what the participants need in order to meet the requirements of the type of occupation, all while also providing your participants with both a classroom instructional opportunity as well as on the job training that's necessary in order to get them skilled up and meet the needs of both industry and the employment. Um, so as this slide says, a registered apprenticeship program is approved by USDOL. It's industry-driven structured training program that allows an apprentice to earn while they learn. That's a federal um, statement. They love that earn while you learn. Ultimately, the reasoning is the goal of a registered apprenticeship is for a person to be employed and receive training after they've received employment, not rather than it being the other way around, where somebody gets training and then gets employment. The model that we'd be ex- expecting for a program in NJ Build would not be an apprenticeship day one. It would be a pre-apprenticeship program that would lead them into an apprenticeship program at some point during the grant program. So within a registered apprenticeship program, there are some requirements. Minimally, they require 144 hours of what we call related technical instruction. That's like classroom instruction or training, and 2,000 hours of on-the-job training learning for each year of the occupation. So if your registered apprenticeship program is a 1-year training program, minimally they would require you have 144 hours of related technical instruction, classroom instruction, and 2,000 hours of on-the-job training. If you do the math, that works out to a little under 40 hours a week. It's like 38 hours a week. So the expectation of a registered apprenticeship program is full-time employment. Um, the complexity of the program and the training program dictates how long the registered apprenticeship program ranges, and they usually range from 1 to 5 years. By that, if you have 4,000 hours of on-the-job training, you're obviously not getting 4,000 hours of training in a 1 year time frame. So you'll most likely have a 2-year training program. It all depends on how long the training program requirements are, and those are standards that you set with USDOL when you reach out to them to create your registered apprenticeship program. Some of the pieces of a registered apprenticeship program that make it both successful and um, also intriguing to employers and to participants of a registered apprenticeship program is that you have a paid job. You earn as you learn, with a guaranteed wage increase as you develop new skills. Those wage increases would be attainable as you become more valuable to the employer. Credentials are received. You receive an industry recognized and nationally portable credential at the completion of the registered apprenticeship program. As I said, it's nationally portable, so you can take it with you to any state within the United States, and it's accepted and recognized the same in all 50 states of the United States. Um, you gain workplace relevant skills in the field of your choice through on-the-job learning. Uh, you can get academic credit towards college degrees for the skills you learn while you're avoiding any student debt, because ultimately the goal would be that you're earning income. And then you have mentors that you connect with in your choosing industry who can help you advance your career and understand the ins and outs of the job on a day-to-day basis. These are some current figures of where we are here in the state of New Jersey when it comes to apprenticeship. Currently, there are 8,752 active apprentices in New Jersey, 1,286 registered programs in the state of New Jersey. Since Governor Murphy took office in January of 2018, New Jersey's registered 675 new registered apprenticeship programs, which is a 100% statewide increase. We've hired 17,315 new apprentices, issued 8,760 new industry recognized certifications of completion. And since the last quarter of 2017, the total apprentices have increased by approximately 1,969 apprentices, which is the highest level in New Jersey since 2013, and equates out to a grand growth of 29% net increase statewide in active apprentices. So as you can see, the funding that's been issued through our Office of Apprenticeship has definitely had an impact on both the number of apprentices and the number of approved apprenticeship programs that exist in the state of New Jersey. We've expanded many occupations, too many occupations that didn't exist in the past, and we've also helped to increase the number of programs that exist within those who have already been doing registered apprenticeship for a long time. So what is the New Jersey Builder Utilization Initiative for Labor Diversity? It's not just an interesting acronym, NJ Build, but it's a legislation that was provided through an annual appropriations act, PL 2009 C3335. And it was designed to provide training opportunities for minorities and women in the construction trades and construction related trades, so that minorities and women can realize equal employment opportunity in public contracting. All state agencies are required to pay 1/2 of 1% of the total cost of any construction contracts that are equal to or greater than $1 million to the NJ Build Fund, which is immediately awarded. I'm sorry, to the NJ Build Fund immediately upon the award of any contract. So, any state agency who has a contract that's specific to construction contracts that's in excess of $1 million, they take 1/2 of 1% of the total amount of the contract, and it creates this NJ Build Fund. And this NJ Build Fund is meant to skill up women and minorities in order to increase the number of positions that they could fill within the construction trades and construction related trades, and hopefully to make there be the possibility of equal employment opportunities for them in public contracting. Obviously, without the skills and without the experience and or training, it's hard for anybody to find employment. So the goal here is to skill up a population of people who have not received those types of skills in the past, so that they are more qualified and can get into the trades. So now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Lauren Kremper DiFilippo, who's going to speak a little bit more specific to the notice of grant opportunity and the program that we're issuing funds out for now. And then you'll probably hear me jump in here and there to add some additional comments. But ultimately, I'll hand it over to Lauren. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So the program overview is that the Women and Minorities in Construction Trades program seeks to eliminate economic barriers commonly associated with an individual's inability to invest in skills, training, and work readiness, and connect women and/or minority populations to quality career and training opportunities in the building and construction industry. New Jersey Build aims to strengthen access to employment and training for women and minorities in the construction trades. The mission of Women and Minorities in Construction Trades is to promote outreach, occupational skills training, including but not limited to pre-apprenticeship training in the construction trades, registered apprenticeship and on-the-job training for female and minority residents of New Jersey to prepare them for entry in a registered apprenticeship or employment in a construction-related job. The primary goals and objectives are to increase opportunities for women and minorities to acquire skills, increase employment opportunities, and benefit economically from construction and infrastructure projects within New Jersey. Assist public works contractors, businesses, and trade unions in meeting their workforce needs through the recruiting and training of women and minority populations. Engage contractors in the development and provision of construction-related training. Provide workforce readiness and occupation-specific construction-related trades training, and assist participants with job placement services in construction-related jobs or registered apprenticeship programs with a pay rate of no less than, it should be $16 per hour.
Yeah, I was going to say that that actually was increased. So earlier this past month in January, the minimum wage in New Jersey increased to I think it's like 15 something, 15.13 or 15 something an hour. So we've actually increased with this fiscal year the minimum requirements for all of our grants, and that has now gone from 15 to $16 an hour. So all participants must receive employment or enter into a registered apprenticeship program with a minimum wage of no less than $16 per hour.
The expectations. So to prepare women and minorities for employment and/or placements in registered apprenticeship programs within the building and construction trades occupations or other industry occupations, and provide quality support services to ensure success for placements into employment. Funding must be used to support training in the construction and building trades industry, including lead abatement occupations, occupations within the construction craft, administrative support, and/or operational occupations are acceptable. This includes professional titles as well as skilled trades.
So that last paragraph here is very important for you to pay attention to. When we say construction trades occupation or other industry occupations, um, the occupations are going to have to be in the construction craft, administrative support, or operational occupations within the construction fields. So if you're providing them with training in order to obtain employment and they're not going to get employment in the construction fields, that's not the kind of training that we're looking to provide funding for currently within the New Jersey Department of Labor's NJ Build programs. The goal here is to increase the number of women and minorities that are obtaining employment within the fields of the construction trades. So sometimes the occupations aren't as important as the positions that they're going to fill and where they're going to fill them, because they have to be filled within the construction trades fields. But ultimately, just know that sometimes you're going to submit things to us and we're going to have to deny it because it doesn't fit into the um, legislative allowances of NJ Build. NJ Build is legislatively driven, and we are kind of held to the standard here at the Department of Labor of placing individuals, women and minorities specifically, into construction trades, and if we're not training them and getting them placement into those trades, then technically the program is looked at as not successful. So we're not looking to set anybody up to be unsuccessful with our grants. So your application should be clear on the occupations that you're looking to fill, the fields that they're going to be filled in, the types of employers that you are working with and partnering with, and making sure you're getting all of that detail and providing that information within your application.
The green energy economy. NJDOL is committed to investing in the clean energy economy construction jobs. It is not mandatory that applicants concentrate on these occupations, but NJDOL encourages applications that focus on the following construction-related occupations. Green jobs are such as clean buildings, decarbonization, offshore wind, energy efficiency, environmental infrastructure, grid infrastructure and storage, solar and or weatherization occupations. Or there's lead abatement. Lead-based plant and lead-contaminated water line hazards burden New Jersey homes, schools, and places of business, causing sickness and poisoning across the country. So, in support of the need to remediate thousands of New Jersey's lead-burdened homes, apartments, and places of business, we are encouraging a concentration on training and placement into the lead abatement industry with our fiscal year 24 Women and Minorities in Constructions grant program.
So as this slide says, it's not mandatory that you do this. We did have an NGO that we put out last fiscal year that set aside funds specifically for green jobs, lead abatement concentration. That is not being done currently with our notice of grant opportunities. We're not setting aside specific amounts of funds for that, but ultimately we are allowing for you to apply in those areas, and we are looking at that as uh, a focus of what we would like to see placement and trainings be concentrated on, being that there is such an increase in the need here in the state of New Jersey, but nationally as a whole. So just know it's not mandatory that you utilize these occupations, but it will be looked upon favorably.
Okay, women and minorities in construction, pre-apprenticeship or pre-employment training. Training will be conducted to prepare women and minorities for entry into the construction industry. Training can include workforce readiness, occupational training, and or job shadowing. So there's three different options for the outcomes and placement. Option one, a minimum of 75% of participants completing the pre-apprenticeship training enter a USDOL registered apprenticeship program. Option two, minimum of 75% of participants completing the pre-apprenticeship training enter a USDOL registered apprenticeship program, and or a minimum of 75% of participants completing the pre-employment training enter other construction related employment. And then option three is no pre-apprenticeship or pre-employment training provided. The employer applies for the grant to hire and train new hires or new apprentices on the job.
So what this slide is hoping to make clear is that there are multiple options for you as the applicant to choose to um, meet the requirements of this grant. As we said many, many times throughout this, it has to be training within the construction trades for women and minorities, but you have multiple options on how you're going to concentrate on that training and then concentrate on your placement. Option one would be straight up registered apprenticeship program. So you're going to provide a pre-apprenticeship training program that's going to lead them into a registered apprenticeship training program. A minimum of 75% of your participants have to receive an outcome or placement. So if you train 100 people, 75 of them have to get entered into a registered apprenticeship program. That's option one. Option two is you can either do a portion of the 75% in registered apprenticeship and a portion of the 75% in pre-employment training, or you can do all 75% of the employment training. So you would provide them with pre-employment skill-based training, and then you would place them into employment. 75% of the total number of participants served, though, still need to receive an outcome. So whether they're receiving a portion of, so if you're serving 100 participants, 50 of them in each registered apprenticeship and 50 in pre-employment, 75% of the 50 have to get placed into a registered apprenticeship. 75% of the 50 have to get placed into employment of a minimum of $16 per hour. Um, that's option two. And like I said, option two can be 100% of your participants are just receiving pre-employment training, entering into construction-related employment. They don't have to have registered apprenticeship at all. And then the third option is basically you're utilizing these funds for on-the-job training. You're an employer, you're hiring these individuals from day one, and you're gonna pay them, um, and you want this to offset the salaries while they're learning on the job how to be, um, whatever it is that you're training them for. So you're an electrician, you're hiring them to be an electrician's assistant, and they're going to start on day one, and you're going to pay them a salary, and we're willing to pay 50% of that salary for a period of up to a year. That would allow for you to get them skilled up and be capable of meeting the requirements and needs of your business. Um, that can be done in whether you decide you do that in a registered apprenticeship program for your participants, or that can be done just on the job training as an employer hiring them from day one. Those are the options.
So the elements, pre-apprenticeship training option one or two, an approved training and curriculum, strategies for long-term success, access to appropriate support services with a one-stop connection, promote greater use of registered apprenticeship, meaningful hands-on training that does not displace paid employees, and facilitated entry and or articulation into an approved registered apprenticeship program. Please note that as the applicant, you must have an established connection to at least one registered apprenticeship program or sponsor for this option.
If you choose option one, you must have it. If you choose option two and you are going to place some into a registered apprenticeship program, then you would have to have an established connection with at least, or established partnership with at least one registered apprenticeship program. If you decide to choose option two and do 100% of your participants pre-employment with placement into employment of $16 or more an hour, you do not have to have a connection with at least one registered apprenticeship program, but you should definitely have connection with employers within the field that are stating this is how many people I'm interested in hiring from those that they're going to be trained. You want to make sure that you're providing that those letters of support from those employers on your within your application, so that you are showing the true partnership that you've developed and that exists, and that you're going to meet the requirements of the grant, but also be able to meet the requirements of the grant and be able to help these women and minorities that you're providing this training um, to find employment at the end of the training.
Pre-employment training option two, industry-driven training and curriculum, provide job coaching and employment preparation, access to appropriate support services, again with a one-stop connection, occupation-specific construction-related training, hands-on training to simulate on-the-job circumstances and situations, and quality job placement and retention services post-placement. Note that a strong application will have quality support and commitment letters from employers stating a specified number of participants they intend to hire from your program post-training. The elements of on-the-job training option three, employer-driven to meet the needs of their businesses. Funding can be used to provide on-the-job training at a minimum of, it should be $16 per hour. Funding can be used to provide a 50% wage reimbursement to the employer, reimbursement of salary with proof of payment required monthly. The maximum cost per participant is $15,000. Commitment of retention of employee would be required post-funding and must not displace existing employees. And a note, a strong application will provide a detailed description of on-the-job training to be provided over timeline and detailed assurance of retention of participants, as well as comfort that the program will not displace existing employees.
So a key piece for you to concentrate on here is that one, this program will, if you choose this option, you should be the employer that's hiring these individuals as the applicant. You shouldn't be choosing this option if you are not an employer that's hiring individuals. Two, maximum cost per participant is $15,000. That is across the board. That's all of our options. A maximum allowable cost per participant is $15,000. So the easiest way to know what your maximum allowable grant application submittal amount can be is if you know you're going to serve 20 individuals, 20 times 15,000, that's the maximum amount of money you're allowed to ask for. If you ask for more than 15,000 per participant, it will negatively impact your score. I promise you it'll make it difficult for you to receive funding. Sometimes it is overlooked and we can come back and have you adjust your budget, but I would suggest that you try to have your budget be within that $15,000 per participant. It doesn't have to be $15,000 per participant. If you can create a program and budget it out to only cost you $10,000 per participant, great. That's perfect. We're willing to allow for you to do that, but we give up to $15,000 for the training and the placement of these individuals. Um, so that's just some basic information. You can be a pre-employment program or a registered apprenticeship program and still have on-the-job training be budgeted within it, but ultimately it's not mandatory that you utilize on the job training. In any of the other options, it is mandatory that if you choose option three, 100% of your budget should be going towards on the job training. So you should be doing, however many employees that you're looking to hire, divide, times 15,000, and your budget should be all on the job training funds um, for the participants if you choose option three. A key piece to option three as well is to understand that we're not, this would be for hiring of new individuals or skilling up somebody who's an incumbent worker. So if they already work for you, but they don't have the skills in order to be able to do something um, that it requires some additional skills within your business, then we could possibly utilize these funds, but they'd have to be a woman or minority. Uh, but we would be looking mostly to have you hire new individuals who are not displacing existing employees. So you shouldn't be laying off staff to bring in people through the NJ Build program. And the expectation is that when the $15,000 runs out, that you're going to continue to employ these individuals. If we find that you're not employing them, it's not a benefit. The program is no longer a benefit to the department, and we may not allow for those funds to continue to be utilized for hiring of new individuals if that's the what ends up being the case, and we see that occurring. But that's all after the receipt of grant funds. It's not something specific to the application process.
The deliverables. The following objectives have been established to achieve the goals of increasing opportunities for the employment of women and minorities in the construction industry and to address the building and construction industry's need for better prepared apprentices and employees. One, to recruit participants through active marketing, recruitment, and outreach strategies, to provide pre-employment or pre-apprenticeship training to prepare eligible participants for jobs within the construction industry, to provide job coaching and employment preparation to women and minority individuals, to assist with job placement services targeting employment in a US DOL registered apprenticeship program or other construction related employment paying no less than $16 per hour, and to obtain sustainable employment in any building and construction trades occupation or any ancillary occupations associated with the building and construction trades. Program outcomes. Participants must participate in all components of the program. You must graduate a minimum of 75% of program participants from the training program. Place a minimum of 75% of program participants into either USDOL registered apprenticeship program or into employment within a construction job with a starting wage of at least $16 per hour. Conduct follow-up for job retention post-placement, a minimum of one industry valued credential, and assist participants to acquire such documents such as their driver's license, a state ID, birth certificate, etc. Case management, support services, and job coaching. Applicants are required to provide the following services: assessment of program participants to determine if additional supportive services are needed, Provide ongoing case management services during the training program and after job placement. Each participant must obtain at least one industry recognized credential and provide job coaching and job placement services, linking participants to USDOL approved registered apprenticeship programs and or trade related employment. Note that grantees can include a needs-based stipend in your budget to enable participation. Stipend payments can be paid to the participants on a biweekly basis and cannot exceed $250 per week.
Just for clarity purposes, because we do get this question on occasion, it has to be paid out minimally biweekly, but it can be paid out weekly. You cannot pay it out monthly, though. It has to be paid out minimally biweekly. Main reasoning is that the reason for the stipend is to enable participation. So if there are reasons why these participants need these funds, um, ultimately waiting too long to give it to them isn't going to necessarily keep them and retain them as participants. So we would expect the stipends to be paid out minimally biweekly, but they can be paid out weekly.
Funding and contract information. Funding for fiscal year 2024 is expected to be $3 million and is contingent upon availability of funds. Organizations awarded fiscal year 2023 women and minorities in construction trades contracts are not eligible to apply for fiscal 2024 funding. The round one uh, app,
Yeah, this slide's a little off, and we'll update these slides before we send them to you. But ultimately, um, if you received fiscal year 24 round one funding, you're not eligible to receive fiscal year 24 round two funding. This slide has to be updated, but ultimately, just know that you could have received FY23 funds, and you are eligible for round two. You just not weren't eligible for round one. This slide just has to be updated.
so the contract will be 18 months. Competitive proposals will have a cost per head of a maximum $15,000. Funding from this grant announcement shall be used to support training in the construction and building trades. Any construction craft, administrative support, and operational occupations are acceptable. This includes professional titles as well as skilled trades. Awarded applicants will have administrative responsibilities, including but not limited to archiving records, completing monthly reports, and attending required meetings. Okay, the application process. Your proposal components, and these are required documents. All required information must be submitted in the IGX system. Your applicant information, the counties you're going to serve, previous funding, consortium partners and commitment letters, the deliverables, your activity plan, your statement of need, your organizational commitment and capacity, the training curriculum and schedule, a program sustainability plan, your tax clearance certificate, prior performance narrative if applicable, and budget summary and details. The first steps, if you are considering applying, you want to ensure that you're an eligible entity to apply. These page numbers correspond to the NGO, so that's pages 7 and 8. The authorized official registers in the IGX SAGE system, and that's page 11. The authorized official submits letter of intent via email, and you can refer to pages 11 and 20. NJDOL approves the authorized official in IGX and provides access to the application. That you obtain a tax clearance certificate from the New Jersey Division of Taxation, pages 14 and 21, and that you register with New Jersey Department of Treasury or NJ START, and that instructions are on page 21.
So first things first, we're going to get a little more into the IGX database in a couple slides. So that part, don't get overly confused by. That's not necessarily something you need to quite understand just yet. We'll get into more details on that. In reference to the other documents, um, Please, please, please don't wait until the last second to reach out to the Division of Taxation in order to get the tax clearance certificate from them. Sometimes you run into issues, sometimes they run into issues and they're behind and it takes them a little longer to get that document. Please reach out to them right away if you know you're going to apply for this grant and reach out to obtain that tax clearance certificate. Information on how to reach out to them can be found within the notice of grant opportunity, or when we provide this slideshow to you, you can click right on the tax clearance certificate hyperlink that's on this page, and it'll bring you to where you could get details on how to obtain a tax clearance certificate. Your tax clearance certificate has to be dated within 6 months of the submittal date of the application. So the application is due on whatever date the application is due on. Your letter from taxation for your tax clearance has to be dated within 6 months of that date. Okay, so that's something to just make sure you are aware of and that you get that tax clearance certificate on file. If you don't have one that's within 6 months uh, of now old, then reach out to taxation and get a new one. If you have one that you've gotten within the last 6 months, then you can submit that one, and that one it will be acceptable, but it has to be within the last 6 months. Um, the same with NJ Start. If you need to get your program and your organization registered with NJ Start, that's how we would pay you. So if you receive these funds and we don't have you register with NJ Start, we have no ability to create your account with Treasury in order for us to be able to pay your organization for any services that you're providing. So that's why we need you to get that stuff done with NJ Start. But most importantly, that tax clearance certificate, please reach out right away, get the document as soon as you can. Don't wait for them. If they tell you they're going to get you something in 2 days, reach out to them in 2 days and find out what's going on. We actually just had somebody who received funding for one of our grants, and then we had to pull it away from them because they did not get the tax clearance certificate in place. It is a legislative required document, so it's not something that we can overlook at all in any capacity. We need that tax clearance certificate, and I don't want anybody to go through all this hard work of completing an application and then go through the process of panel review, approval, and then we can't offer you funds. It's really not fair to your organization. So please always try and get those documents obtained as soon and as quickly as you can.
This slide is the template that can be found on page 20 of the NGO, and this is what your letter of intent is going to look like. You use this exact document, no more, no less, and this is what you will email to the email just at the bottom, the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov, after you register yourself in IGX for access.
Yes, this document is exactly the same in the notice of grant opportunity that we're going to send to you. The only difference is that where he says RE FY 2024 round one, it just says round two. Um, but ultimately, it's this document that you're going to use. You can copy and paste this information right out of the notice of grant opportunity, um, or you can retype it if you want, but ultimately it has to be this format that you utilize when you submit your letter of intent. And that letter of intent is emailed to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address that you see at the bottom of the page. And this is what gives us knowledge that you've registered in the IGX database. We're going to get into the registration process in a few minutes, but ultimately, without you submitting this letter of intent, you can email me as much as you want and say I've been trying to log into IGX, but it's not letting me in. It won't let you in until you submit this letter of intent to us. So make sure you do them simultaneous. You register in the IGX database and then you submit your letter of intent right away. If you don't hear back from us usually within 24 hours as a submittal of your letter of intent, obviously if you do it at after hours on a Friday, you're not going to probably hear back from us until Monday, but we definitely try to be on top of this and get back to you within 24 to 48 hours and give you your access. But this letter of intent is going to be what tells us to go look for your registration if you've registered, or to give your organization access to the database so that you can start completing the application. So this letter of intent is a key piece to you receiving the ability to apply for this grant.
Let's take an in-depth look at the proposal. Your activity plan. Is your proposals to include and There's max pages here. It's just for a guide. Specific objectives and training plan. Timeline from recruitment to job placement, enrollment in a registered apprenticeship program if applicable. Detailed outreach and recruitment plans. Post-placement follow-up and comprehensive program plan is strongly encouraged. Your statement of need is to excuse me, specify construction needs in a region, demonstrate the need for placement and services for women and a minority population, and the projected number of apprenticeship opportunities if applicable. Mm. The organization commitment and capacity, you're going to describe your commitment to addressing the needs identified, provide the organization support for implementing the project, and provide experience that will lead to the success of the project. Your program sustainability plan, you will describe a strategy for long-term success absent of this grant funding.
These are all documents that you're going to upload within the IGX database within the required documents section of your notice of your application. So what these bullets are kind of doing is detailing what you have to minimally provide details on. And then the NGO would speak to more details specific exactly what it is you want to make sure that you provide within those sections, and give you additional requirements for each of these documents.
Your training curriculum and schedule. So your curriculum outlining training components, including associated hours for completion of each component, should be based on industry standards with the goal of preparing participants to enter a registered apprenticeship or job paying minimally $16 per hour. Must be focused on basic skills instruction, workforce readiness instruction, and occupation-specific construction trades training, as well as provide recruitment strategies and your attendance policy. The prior performance narrative, if this is applicable, only required if you received prior state funding or a similar program, and describe performance, including outcomes, effectiveness, and success in meeting goals and objectives of the grant.
So when we say only required if received prior state funding or a similar program. Basically, if you were a recipient of Women and Minorities in Construction or any other NJ Build funded program in the past, you should provide us with a prior performance narrative. If you received any other training funds that were specific to um, to training within the construction related fields that were maybe not NJ Build funded, it would never hurt to provide the details on what kind of performance you had on those types of grants, because it would only help your application to be considered for success. But at the end of the day, it's not mandatory that you provide it unless you received a prior NJ Build funded program uh, grant.
Evaluation criteria. All applications are considered new applications and will be evaluated based on quality, comprehensiveness, completeness, accuracy, and appropriateness to the NGO. This is a competitive process and applications are reviewed by a selection committee using a pre-established set of requirements.
Important that you note that because of these two statements, there are questions that I can or that my team cannot always answer for you, mainly because we have to ensure that the competitiveness of the grant is always intact. So sometimes you might ask a question and we may have to tell you that we can only provide you with some basic details. I cannot answer you if you were to email me or ask me, so I was thinking about adding this to my application. What do you think? I cannot provide you with any details to that. If you were to ask me any specific questions about what it was you were trying to complete and whether or not I thought it was a good idea, that I can't do either. You have to keep it very basic, because at the end of the day, I have to make sure that anything I've told you, I've told everybody else, and that ultimately any information I'm providing to you is not impacting the ability for others to receive the same level of information from me and or my team. So um, just know that a lot of times your questions may not be something that we can answer. We will answer you and tell you that we can't provide you with that detail, but don't please don't reach out to us and ask us anything specific to what it is you're looking to accomplish, whether or not it's allowable. Anything's allowable up until the time when funding is provided. We may come back and ask you to elaborate or make changes to something once your grant is approved, but ultimately it's your job in your application to ensure it makes sense, it's clear, and it's easy to understand exactly what it is you're looking to accomplish, and that you're looking to and how you're looking to accomplish that. Those things are really key, and those things are important that you understand are on you as the applicant, not something that we can necessarily provide you with additional details on what it is to provide that kind of information. After the grant application is completed, if at that time you want to meet to discuss some of the things that were within your application and see whether or not we can provide you with some additional details, then we can do that. We can't do it until after the whole process is complete. So once you receive notification of whether you received funding or didn't receive funding, that's when we could meet. But usually we do those after the what we call determination letters go out.
All
Right,
right.
so
Oh,
go
good.
ahead, Lauren.
I was just going to turn it over to you to discuss IGX.
Yeah, so now if you haven't heard my voice enough, you can listen to me more. Um, the next set of slides are going to speak specifically to registering within the IGX database. For any of you who are already registered in IGX because you've filled out applications previously for our office or for any other Department of Labor grants, some of this information you might not have to do anything with. If you're registered in IGX, you submit your letter of intent to us, we'll give you access to the application, and you can log in and start completing the process of completing your application. For anybody who's never heard of IGX and has never been registered in IGX before, your organization might not even be in IGX, these slides will be very important to you. So initially, first things first, the web address for IGX is https://njdol.intelligrants.com. Once you're there, you'll be brought to a login page, as you see here on the left. If you have your username and password, you can log in using that. You don't need to log into IGX until you've submitted your letter of intent. If you haven't submitted your letter of intent, please don't go logging in thinking you're going to find anything. There's nothing going to be there until you submit that letter of intent. But if you are a new user and you've never been registered in IGX or in Sage in the past, you'll go to this web address and click New User at the bottom, which is circled. Once you click on that, it'll pull up a registration form, which you see here on the right. It's very basic information, but you'll provide all of the information of the fields that are here. And at the bottom, you'll enter in women and minorities in construction, where it says, please enter the program applying for. It's not mandatory that you put that there, but it is helpful. You can just abbreviate it to WMIC. That's perfectly fine as well. It makes it easier for us to find you. You got to think about, we use this database for, I think it's 17 different grant applications currently here at the Department of Labor. So if you put WMIC, it makes it faster for me to be able to search through the list of people who are trying to register and find yours and approve it as fast as possible. But once you enter that information, you click register, and you'll get basically a notification saying you'll receive additional information once your registration has been approved. You'll then want to make sure you submit your letter of intent to us. That letter of intent will tell us to go and look for your registration. We'll find your registration, approve it, and then send you what we call a user guide to complete the application. And that'll give you more details on exactly how to complete your application and find your application within the database. It is a step-by-step user guide. It's we've been using it for many years at this point, and it seems to be user-friendly and easy to follow. So those are the registration process for getting your application approved. So once you receive the email from us saying that your registration has been approved or your application, your letter of intent has been accepted and we are giving you access to the application, you will then go to log back into the IGX database. Same https://njdol.intelligrants.com. You'll enter the username and password that you either have created in the past or just got approved through us. and click login. Once you click login, it'll bring you to a dashboard page. Once you're on the dashboard page, you're going to want to look for the filter under My Opportunities. You'll open that filter by clicking on that little arrow to the left of the word filter. You'll want to choose New Jersey Department of Labor as the provider under the filter and type in women under the name and click search. When you do that, under My Opportunities, you'll see a hyperlink for the Women and Minorities in Construction 2024 application. Round 2 is what you'll see on there when you type in women, because round 1 is no longer available. So round 2 is what you'll see there. You'll click on that hyperlink under the word name, and that'll bring you into your application. You'll have to click agree once you approve this application and you are ready to start it. And that will bring you into your application. Please note that once you're in the application, you don't have to complete it in one sitting. You can do it in many days, however long it takes for you to complete it. If you were to go out of the application and come back to it at a later date, you would log in to your dashboard the same way I showed you earlier. And when you get there under My Tasks, you would find your application listed under My Tasks. You would click on the name under My Tasks, and that would bring you back into your application so that you can complete the document then. This is what the application documents look like. You'll see them all listed here under application. You're going to initially be brought up to your what's called document landing page, which just provides details about your organization. There's nothing here that you enter additional. You'll click on each page individually and provide the information required within each page. Some of the pages have requirements, some of them don't. For example, applicant information page is a required page. The miscellaneous attachments page at the very bottom is not a required page. That's just a page you would go to upload any miscellaneous documents that you felt were necessary for the to add clarity to your application. You'll click on each one of these individual pages and complete them as necessary. Once you've completed them and saved the page, a check mark will show up in that blank box that you see here now, but you'll have to complete each page individually. If for some reason you complete a page and there's errors on the page, instead of a check mark being in that box, you'll see an exclamation point. That'll notify you that you need to go back to that page and update any errors that are showing up on that page. Once you've completed filling out all the application pages, as I said, we'll provide you with a user guide. Once your letter of intent is approved, that provides you with more details on each individual page, what's mandatory, what's required, and what you have to complete in order to get your application finalized. Um, Once you've done that, you'll have 2 steps that you need to follow in order to submit your application. The first thing you want to do is scroll down on the left-hand side on that menu where you saw the application pages originally, and you'll find a section called Tools. Under the Tools, you'll want to do a document validation. You see it in the middle of that list. You click on document validation. What that does is it validates within your application pages that there are no errors. If you do that and nothing comes up, then you are ready to click application submitted under status options at the bottom. If for some reason something comes up there, it means you have to go back and visit those pages, make the corrections to the errors that are showing up. Sometimes you just have to go back to those pages and resave the page. It depends. But ultimately, once you clear the errors on those pages, then you can come back down, do another document validation. It should show you that there's no issues, and then you can click on application submitted at the bottom under status options. Please be careful to only click on application submitted. There are 2 choices that you'll have under status options. One's application submitted, one's application canceled. If you cancel your application, we can send it back to you, so don't worry. It's not the scariest thing in the world, but you do have to reach out to us and we can get it back to you. Once you click application submitted, though, you're going to get this box that pops up on the right-hand side that says, are you sure you want to change the status of your form? So you'll click OK to submit it and you'll be done. Your application is complete at that time. It's been submitted to us. You'll be able to verify that it's been submitted by going back to your landing page, which is under Tools there, that top thing under Tools where it says landing page. You can click on that and that'll bring you back to that snapshot page and it'll tell you the status of your application, which should be application submitted. Um, please, when you are, after you've clicked OK here, you're going to notice under status options, the only status left is application canceled. That does not mean that the status of your application is application canceled. What that means is that you can cancel your application still by clicking that. So don't click application canceled at that time. It will cancel your application and we won't necessarily know that you accidentally just canceled your application. So please be careful to submit your application. If you want to email us for confirmation that your application got submitted appropriately, please feel free to email the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address. It comes to all of us at once, so we can, one of us can respond to you timely. Once you've completed this, your application is completed. Here's some, oh, these are not good dates. We have a lot going on, unfortunately, within the Office of Apprenticeship. And so these pages have not been updated. Who has the NGO up so that you can please inform them? And I'm going to update
The
this page.
NGO's in the chat. So let me open it up here.
Just tell me on the front page when the letter of intent due date is and when the application due date
The
is.
the letter of intent is due March 8th at noon,
Okay,
and
March 8th, 2024.
at noon, and the application deadline is no later than noon, March 15th, the Ides of March.
All right, so March 8th for the letter of intent and March, what was it?
15th
for the application. They're both Fridays. So just know that those will be the dates. I'm going to update these slides before I send them out to you guys. I'm going to update them now as soon as we get off this call. But if you can please put all that information in the chat so that everybody has it readily available to them right now. That'll be helpful. Just know that the letter of intent, if for some reason your organization can't get the letter of intent by that due date into us, we will be pretty flexible with that, but the application due date, we will not be flexible with. Usually we try and hold you to the standards that we're holding everybody else to. If others can get their applications in on time, the expectation is that you can get it in on time as well. It'll ultimately ensures that the competitiveness of the application is intact as well. So please be sure to get those applications submitted by the March 15th deadline at 12 noon. If you run into some technical issues, you can reach out to us and we are more than willing to help you with them, try and figure out what's causing them and try and help you to get things organized and cleaned up. But at the end of the day, these deadlines will be as fair as we can for them, but at the end of the, we really do hold you to the deadlines. Here's the contact information for the Office of Apprenticeship. James Manning, he's actually our assistant director now here at the within the Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. Myself, Bill Sarbuck, I'm contract administrator and the supervisor of all the grants that we issue here through this department. At this Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. And if you have any general inquiries, you can direct them to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address. As I said, that comes to all of us simultaneously, and one of us can respond to you timely. Okay, so let me open the chat so that we can start going through the questions that have been submitted as well. If anybody has any questions once I've completed, please feel free to reach to unmute yourself and ask them at any time. All right, so Diane, we already responded to your question in reference to whether or not the PowerPoint will be provided. Yes, that will be.
Thank you. I did have another question. One of the slides mentioned putting people in different trades and they mentioned solar. Are you aware of any solar apprenticeships? As I am not.
So there are not any registered apprenticeship programs that are
Okay,
specific to a solar.
that's what I
Solar
thought.
it falls into construction, usually like carpenters training. So some of the trades include solar, but solar is not by itself, no.
Yeah, but it's not really solar training. It
Right.
might just be a little component of it. It's not,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, there's no solar.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought maybe we missed something. It
No,
would be
not
nice.
to date. USDOL has not added an occupation specific to solar to this date. I think it's because the trainings are not, they're not long enough for a registered apprenticeship.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, our cleaning crew comes through. It's the worst time since now all I hear is a vacuum going. Hopefully you guys can't hear it. Okay, so solar apprenticeships. Yes, I see that question from you, Diane. Al, thank you. Al put a link to the notice of grant opportunity within the chat as well, if anybody wants to get that. He also provided a link to Treasury and taxation for you to get your tax clearance certificate document, and a link to NJ Start in the chat as well. What is the unique entity identification, which was asked for on the letter of intent? So unique entity identifier has taken over for what you used to know as the DUNS number. Um, the federal government no longer recognizes DUNS as a number. They created their own database, and it's called unique entity identifier. We'll provide you with details on how to get your unique entity identifier with all the other documentation that we're going to send you. We actually have like a little um like slideshow that tells you step by step what the process is in order to get one. It's done through sam.gov, and ultimately you just register there and they check and make sure all your information matches to taxation, and they'll provide you with the number. It's kind of like I said, it's just like what the Duns and Bradstreet number was in the back in the day, but it's now called unique entity identification.
Got it. Thanks so much for asking that. Can I also follow up with two additional questions, if I may?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I had a question. So this is a reimbursement grant.
Correct.
Okay, so how are those funds reimbursed? Is it like quarterly or after the program is complete?
Nope, we reimburse monthly. So if our grant starts on May 1st, you would start requesting your reimbursements on June 1st for the month of May. So you would, we're usually within 30 to 45 days of your spend out of the funds. So if you spend the money in the month of May, we reimburse you in the month of June, and we do a monthly reimbursement.
Okay, thank you for that.
No.
My second question was, so we are looking to partner with a local construction company, and the general contractor will like to also be an instructor of this program. So within our partnership, they are looking to, or they are committing to hire some of our program graduates. But in addition to that, the general contractor will like to be an instructor of the program as well. Is that any type of
Conflict?
yeah, I can see it being a conflict, but I would like to ask.
I don't see there being a conflict. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, it really comes down to what works best for your program. You know, at the end, they may want to provide training, and maybe they should provide like an on-the-job training aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
where any additional trainings, they could be brought in to to assist, but there's no restriction on anything like that. There's no conflict as far as um, documentation on our end. I think it really just comes down to what works best for your program and whether or not that works best for your program.
That's great. I guess I just thought of another question,
Hmm.
listening to you. Um, Also, is there a minimum or maximum that you guys require for organizations to maybe apply within, or is it just what the program budget, you know, reads?
Yeah, so your budget is going to be your total budget. It's going to be everything that you require in order to be able to provide the program. So like I said, we have a maximum allowable $15,000 per participant. So if you know you're going to train 20 participants, 20 times 15,000, that's the maximum allowable request of funds. So your budget shouldn't go over that amount that comes out to. Um, that's the best way I can explain it.
Okay.
But ultimately, yeah, it usually works out to you should know how many participants you anticipate providing service to, multiply that by 15,000, and that's the maximum you can ask for. You can ask for less than that, you just can't ask for any more than that.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you
And
so much.
your budget should be a full budget that includes everything. We have a maximum allowable 10% for admin. We also allow for things like supportive services for the participants if they need any supportive services for transportation, childcare, stuff like that, or stipends like we talked about earlier at a maximum of $250 per week. So those things would have to be included in that 15,000 per participant. Um,
What about rental or leasing for facilities? Is the grant allowed to cover that
what is it? I'm sorry.
for lease or rental?
So I would say that we usually do not allow for office rent. Sometimes we are capable of allowing for there to be like classroom rent space,
Yeah.
but it's not always. I'm not saying you have to leave it out of your budget. You can put it in there, and if we have an issue, we can talk about it pre-contract if you are accepted. But I would suggest that you leave off any rental or any computer purchasing. We usually aren't in at the end of the day, we become owners of all those computers that you purchase, and we're not necessarily looking to have a whole bunch of computers laying around after we fund a grant. So those things do tend to get denied. Now, I can't tell you that it would definitively reduce your score if you put those things in your application, but what I can tell you is we would most likely have to pull them out of your budget, and that doesn't really work in your best interest in the long run anyway. So try to avoid those types of things being in your budget.
Got it. Thank you guys so much for your time today.
Oh, no problem. Let's see. Michael Thomas, will you be able to view the Zoom? Yes. So Michael, what we're going to do is we did record this presentation. We'll put a link within the frequently asked questions document that we provide to you, and you'll get that along with a bunch of other stuff probably in the next day or two. Al provided you in the chat with the proper dates for the letter of intent deadline and the application deadline. So thank you, Al. I appreciate you putting that in there. Like I said, I will go through personally and update the slides to make sure that everything is accurate so that when you guys get this stuff emailed to you, it'll all be accurate in there. And just to be sure, does welding fall under your criteria? Sure, welding. Um, as long as the job that somebody would be receiving if they had a welding license or welding certification was in the construction trades industry, then yes, welding would be allowable. Now, if they're going to go and get a welding license and then go out and get a job in the automotive industry, that's not going to be allowable because that's not meeting the requirements of NJ Build. The requirements of NJ Build are training provided to women and minorities specifically to provide them training and placement into the construction trades or ancillary fields and occupations. So it really comes down to where they're what types of jobs they would be receiving and what industry they'd be receiving employment in after the welding. So welding could be definitely acceptable as long as it's going to be welding and then working in, I don't know, with the iron workers. I'm just using them as an example. Um, building, anything that's in the building and construction trades industries. Hopefully that's clear. I'm sure it's a little bit clear as mud, but it's the easiest way to explain it. Um, I don't have any more chat questions. I will open it up in case anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask questions, because I know typing out your questions can sometimes be a hassle. Do we have anybody? Okay, it seems as though it's got, oh, I have a hand up, Carter. Please, Carter, feel free to unmute yourself
Yes.
and ask a question.
Yes, sorry about that. Is there any restrictions from going from a volunteer role of somebody that falls within the organization, but then can be moved into an employee position, or that a role created specifically for that individual?
Are you talking about a participant, Carter?
Yes, a participant within the program.
Can you give me a little more detail on what the volunteering is and then what the employment would be, just so that I could, I don't know, better answer you? I just want to make
So
sure
So basically, I have a similar type of system like that of Lachey, from what I understand, in which we have volunteers that contribute to this type of program. And what I want to do is be able to provide them with the that
Carter,
this
what are
program
they doing as a
of being able
volunteer?
to come.
What are they doing as a volunteer? Like,
Similar,
what's their work?
similar, basic, yeah, they're basically doing, helping to provide educational opportunities for people to learn how to home improvement experiences. So
So you want to
from
hire
that role
them
into
to
getting into more,
you want to hire them to
no, that's the
educate,
initial
or you want to
portion.
hire them to get jobs in the construction?
Right, right. So the initial portion would be for them in the role as the volunteer, but if I had folks in that position and wanted to transition them into that field specifically, those fields specifically, including those partnerships, like Lachey had mentioned, would there be any kind of conflict related to that in terms of the application itself? Meaning, does that have to be included in advance or anything like that?
I don't see a need to include it in advance, but I do think you're going to have to be really clear within your application what it is you're trying to accomplish, because I'm not quite following you, and I don't know that in the minority in this room right now. So I just want to make sure that whatever you write up within your application, make sure it's clear and it makes sense and it's understood by the reader exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish with those participants, because you don't want to create confusion in your application, because the only thing they have to work off of in order to score your application is what you provide them. Does that make sense? Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, there's no restrictions to anything about what you're talking about as far as I can tell. But if it doesn't make sense, like if they're helping and volunteering in a training capacity, that's not construction related job. You know what I mean? So that's the part that you want to make sure you're clear on. You don't want to confuse the reader. Make sure the reader understands that you're training them in a construction trade and that you're going to place them in a construction trade, not that they're being trained to be an educator of construction trades. That's not an approved occupation. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah,
For
and
NJ
I
Bill.
think that, yeah, when I speak about my program, it's kind of not like the normal program in which uh, would normally have things in phase per se. But what it is essentially doing is providing the opportunity to be introduced into that, and then we work to help provide those contractors and those other opportunities,
Mhm.
and utilizing your type of program in order to help do that.
Right. Like I said, I just want to make sure that it's easy to understand for the reader, because
Yeah,
sometimes our
yeah,
readers are novice to this career opportunity and to construction related trades to begin with. We do that on purpose for the purposes of making sure new applicants can be considered for the grants. We don't want to necessarily just give funding out to those who've been doing this forever. You know, we want to make sure we competitively allow for new applicants to have the same opportunities as everybody else. So you just want to make sure that everything is clear and makes sense and is easy to understand, and providing them with a timeline of that information and exactly what's expected of them from start to finish. That's the best way to do it. Nina,
Thank
you
you.
can start submitting your letter of intent right now. You do not have to wait any longer than you didn't have to wait until today. The letter of intent is a requirement of the notice grant opportunity. The notice grant opportunity was posted on January 22nd. Anytime from January 22nd till the deadline of March 8th at 12 noon, that's when you can submit your letter of intent. So please feel free to get that into us as soon as you possibly can.
As soon as
And
you register in IGX.
yes, if you're not registered in IGX, you want to make sure you register first, because the letter of intent, if you're not registered and you submit the letter of intent, we're just going to email you and tell you have to register. So I don't want to, like I said, I'm trying not to waste anybody's time. In the long run, those two things should be happening simultaneous as best as possible. Any other questions?
I have a question, well, an additional question.
Sure.
Um, and I'm sorry if you guys may have mentioned it and I missed it. Is there a particular duration for the program that you guys would?
Sure. So we do 18-month grant programs. We anticipate this round probably starting somewhere between May 1st and June 1st. I would imagine it'll be one of those two dates, depending on how everything goes with applications and submittals and timeliness and getting everything approved within our building here. So my expectation would be start date of somewhere around May 1st or June 1st, and then it would be an 18-month grant program from there forward.
Great. Are we able to have 2 sessions within these 18 months? So let's
Yep.
say, for example, 2 graduating classes.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep, you can do as many cohorts as you'd like. There's actually a deliverables page that you break down the cohorts within the application, and you'll tell us when start and end dates are for each one, stuff like that. So yes, it's all broken down in there. I believe we have it set up to allow for up to 6 cohorts. And sometimes, you might do a class in electrical and a class in HVAC in the same cohort, but they're just different classes. So we've had people apply doing 12 cohorts in the 18 months. It really depends on your program. But yes, you can do multiple cohorts of participants or classes, whichever you want to call it. We
Thank
just call it cohorts.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Okay, so with that, I think I'm going to give everybody the rest of their day. You have the email address to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov. Please submit your letters of intent. Please get onto the IGX database and register if you need to register. If you're unsure if you've registered already, you
Yes.
can email us at the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov and we'll check for you. Or you could just submit your letter of intent and we'll check then. If we come back and email you, then you'll know that you need to register and you're not registered currently. It doesn't hurt anything for you to send us the letter of intent before registering. We'll just notify you that you need to register. But if you know you're not registered, go to IGX, register, and then submit your letter of intent. Other than that, thank you all for your time. We look forward to hearing from you and getting your applications and having the opportunity to work with all of you in the future.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great one. Thank you, guys.